Dimitar. I'm originally from Macedonia, Europe. I've been here. This is my second time in Singapore, uh, 5 years now. So basically, I had pretty difficult childhood. Um, my father had first heart attack 38, 39 years old. Then the second one was by 45. I was very young then, so he stopped working. He never did any training in his life. By age of 49, he had heart surgery. By age of 59, he passed away when I was 21 years old. So basically, that was the shifting point in my life, how I've decided to um, go into this business and try to help people, basically to prevent those things and be there for their kids when most needed. And from there all onwards, I developed more skills towards training athletes as well, because I was also training and I was playing competitive sport for 10 years. So yeah, basically I build on, and then today we want to help you and to give you some hacks of how to move through challenging times, and basically, and especially during the festive season holidays.
So before I show the next slide, and hoping it's the right answers or right data from us, what does everyone here find the most challenging about Christmas or the holiday season? Loneliness. Okay. From a fitness, wellness, maybe not mental health, physical health. Okay. If you're over consuming, at least hopefully you're not lonely. And alcohol as well, bit of both. Okay, so on average, what's the calorie intake for most people recommended per day? The average, height, weight, just regarding that, roughly. Any guesses? 2,000. So if you're active, I think Dimi has 3,000.
Yeah.
But he does maybe 25,000 steps. I have 1,800 and I put on weight. So mine is 1,700 because I'm sedentary behind a keyboard. But generally, 2,000 is roughly the right number. One Christmas meal is 3,000 calories. One Christmas meal. I mean, a slice of pecan pie, which goes down like water or butter, is about 500 calories. So even healthy salads with a lot of dressing, that's a 500 calorie lettuce. Roughly, to lose half a kg a week, how many calories do you think you have to consume a day? 1,000 to 1,002, and you'll drop about half a kg to 800 grams a week, assuming, like me, you're sedentary. If you do 1,500 calories and you're as active as Dimi, you'll lose half a kg to a kg a week. So putting on weight is significantly easier than losing it. So for one Christmas meal, that's an entire week's worth of basically skipping a meal and having breakfast and a lunch, but a healthy salad and a protein breakfast lunch, So it's being mindful on what you eat. And I think that's kind of the main challenge that we see. But in that, I think what I would say is it shouldn't be an all or nothing mindset either. So just because you're having a Christmas meal and it's a cheat meal, it's not, oh, I've had one slice of pie, let me have the second and the third. Because before you know it, you're on your way to kind of the strongest man in the world, 5,000, 8,000 per meal calorie, in one meal, calories per meal. So I think what we're trying to say is enjoy the meal. Don't feel guilty. Because I think one of the other things that studies have generally shown, if you're happy, you live longer, and you lose the weight quicker. And an element in some of the pathways there is unhappiness or guilt also leads to stress, leads to cortisol, and those pathways then impact your fat burning mechanism on the back end. So if you're going to enjoy it, be aware of what you're eating, ensure that you eat it but be mindful so you don't overindulge on the desserts. And then plan the days before and after. So if you've got weekend with family, the few days prior and the few days after, just be mindful and cut down the calories when you can, knowing that you've got consumption coming up. And so that's one of the things that I think I do as more of a non-personal training to stay relatively in shape or within a bandwidth of, I know I can put on 2 or 3 and lose 2 or 3 kgs within a month. And so I keep myself within a bandwidth without feeling guilty. Um, the second thing we wanted to say is, alluding to the loneliness comment, mental health is also important, not just on the weight loss after, but reframing it. So instead of looking at the holiday seasons as a problem in terms of diet, nutrition, how about look at it as an opportunity to uncover new habits? And so what we mean by that is, yes, you're going to consume a lot. Yes, you may not work out as much, but is there something else you can do in the interim? Is it walking? Is it yoga? Is it running? Is it building into the off days rest, recovery, and mobility? Because one of the other things that we see on the backside of holidays is you come back overly eager and zealous to lose the weight, go work out 5 days in a row, and then sustain little tweaks, injuries, niggles, which then prevent you from being consistent. So instead of worrying about what you're not doing, if you reframe it as mobility, exercise, and stretching, you can use your off days or your holiday periods to now bring in some of the stretches, which will set you back up for when you come back to work out. Shameless plug, the best way to have a guilt-free Christmas is sign up for personal training prior, so you know you're already on the pathway back when you return. But like I said, reframe the holidays as an opportunity to dabble into other elements that you may be ignoring in your week-to-week, day-to-day. So some of it is obviously outside of the mobility and stretching, it's what you can get going as a social activity with others, because you are with family, you are with friends. And what we've seen is, especially with colleagues or peers or families that you haven't caught up for a while, going and doing an active catch up, so walks, walk and talk, hike, that actually tends to lead to a lot more in-depth sharing and companionship, where you discover each other and what's actually happening, versus how many times have we gone drinking, enjoyed the time, great memories, but got no added information on how the other person's last 3 months really were. And so that's something that we were looking at. The last thing is, I think outside of being on the weekly, daily monitoring, there is one more element that we'd say, which is plan your day. And so what we mean by plan your day as well on a calorie intake or a holiday hack is, regardless of what your evening meal is, if you wake up and you don't start with the sugary breakfast, I know we love pancakes, but switch it out with protein pancakes, or essentially the key here is, as Demi was sharing with me earlier, is start your day with a savory breakfast. 2 benefits. Generally, savory foods will tend to have lower calories because the sugars add a lot of calories without really making you full. So you generally tend to eat less on the savory level. And 2, the savory often comes with added benefits of protein and fibers. So the second thing is, if you eat your proteins, fibers, vegetables first, your body will metabolize different and eat your carbs last. The other last benefit around eating savory first in the day versus a sweet breakfast, you won't get your insulin spike. And then you won't crave that sugar rush to keep you going the rest of the day. It'll allow your natural energy systems to kick in, your natural pathways, and then enjoy. And once you've done all of that rest of the day, the one thing a lot of you will find is, if you eat a well-balanced diet, and the one thing we'd also say is, don't starve on the day that you have your big meal. Because at some point, your mind is stronger than your body, both in terms of injuries where you over-exercise and get hurt, but in the same way, I won't eat all day to save up for my large dinner, but the minute I see dinner, I will overeat because my mind thinks I'm hungry even though I'm full. So on the day that you've got your Christmas gatherings, your large meals, eat well during the day. You'll crave sugars less in the evenings. And even though good calories are good, too much of it will still add on weight, but at least you can metabolize it and put it to good use in terms of how to work out, what to do during your holidays. The last thing, and I think this is no way around it, the number one foundational pillar across whether it's diet, fitness, longevity, performance, is sleep. So to live longer, you need to sleep well. To lift better, you need to sleep well. If you deprive yourself of a night of sleep, it's the same thing as being drunk with alcohol in terms of your blood work. And so also to catch up on a night of sleep that you've lost takes about 2 weeks. Scientists and researchers will say there is no catching up on loss of sleep, but to at least somewhat re-regulate your body can take up to 2 weeks. So no matter what you eat and what you do, if you can at least have a resemblance of get to bed at a decent hour and get up the next day and get some movement in, it will kickstart your body's mechanism, and that weight in your stomach will not move to weight in your kind of organs or your fats, and it will be metabolized out. So whilst you will put on some weight in the holidays, whether it stays on or not, are different pathways in your body work. I think on that note, I'll pass it to Demi to go over, I guess, some of the more interactive mobility parts. And then on the back end, how to plan your own workouts during the holidays, regardless of what equipment you have.
Okay, so another thing that I just want to add is one of the biggest mistakes that we are seeing in the gym is people think that they burn too much calories by working out. But basically we track, so 1 hour of full strength workout, like very intense, they burn no more than 300 calories, which is like 3 bites of cake in 1 hour. Full sweat, intense heart rate up to 160, 300, 350, male, female, 250, 200 calories in 1 hour, which is even less. It's just few bites of any. Yes.
My Apple Watch said burn 200 more, but this is telling a lie.
How
Total or active?
Active.
Active.
Yes.
how many? How many?
How many I did this morning? 40 minutes walk and rowing machine.
Okay.
Then I burned.
350, 400.
It's now 400. But
That's for the whole day, right?
whole day. But
Whole day. Okay. So.
was 280.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So yes. So again, we come down to 300 average, right? Which, when you're comparing to food, it's nothing, right? Like 300 calories, a few bites of whatever you choose. So that's the biggest mistake that people needs to shift that mindset that, oh my God, because I'm training today, they think that they burn 2000 calories and they go after gym and they eat whatever they want, right? So, but that doesn't work that way.
The other thing I would say is if you are doing cardio during the holidays to make up for consumption, be careful not to overexert on the cardio. So what you'll find is if you go for a really long run and you push yourself, you may burn, instead of 300 calories, 400 for an hour and a half run, but your mind will be so exhausted and craving for energy, you'll overeat. Whereas if you burn 250 with a steady jog or a walk, you won't feel the need to put back the calories in your body because you won't be exhausted from that exertion. So I think it's essentially pace it. Don't try and achieve all the loss in one go. Be mindful, don't put it all in one meal. And if you are conscious and spreading out the exertion, it'll be easier to stay consistent. So if you're away for 2 weeks, do 20, 30 minutes a day. Don't aim for an hour and a half every day. That way, there's a higher chance you actually do the 20 to 30 minutes of a workout on a daily basis.
Yeah. Even like only 3 times a week during those 2 weeks, it's still beneficial. if you don't have a time to work out every single day, right? But 3 times a week will be beneficial. Basically, from what we know, it's the muscle breakdown can take up to 7 days. So if you're not working out 7 days onwards, then we have a muscle fiber decreased and muscle loss, right? So basically, with 2 to 3 times, you can maintain the muscle mass without pushing yourself to work out every day for so long if you're on a holiday and you don't have time to work out. Another thing that is very important to know, it's easy to remember, is every time our body spikes insulin, there is no fat loss. Yeah, so every time when the insulin is high, there is no fat loss process. In order for fat loss to happen, the insulin needs to be 0, right? So basically, after metabolizing all the sugars and stuff.
Sorry, Mike, I don't understand. When you say spiking the insulin, what causes insulin?
Mostly every time you eat carbs or sugar. So any meal that has a carbs and sugar, it goes up. So insulin spikes in order to bring the sugar down. Over time, and you don't burn any fat. Yes, because we burn fat basically when everything is on the
Depleted.
0, right? Yes.
So your sugar source. So that's why they say if you're going for a marathon or running, eat a banana. That's instant energy, and you're not depleting into your reserves, so your reserves kick in later. So if you're working out, don't have the insulin prior.
Yes. So every time we eat, that's why also what we are advocating and we are basically live by is to have a rest between meals, because where people are messing with the snacks is because of the insulin, right? Every time you eat the snack, the insulin goes up, there is no fat loss. And then 2 hours later, you eat again, then insulin goes up, there is no fat burning. Insulin goes up, there is no fat burning. That's why basically the most results we are seeing with people who can stick to meal 4 to 5 hours without eating anything in between. So sugar goes down, they can burn more calories, they can lose fat, then they eat again, then spike, right? Another hack that is very helpful is don't eat the snack alone, eat as a dessert. So you eat the dinner and you immediately eat the dessert if you want. So when the insulin spike all at once, and then it's a rest for 5 6 hours, then you have a fat burning process, right? So that's, I think it's very very beneficial, and we've seen a lot of results because we also do the glucose monitoring, monitor glucose. So some of our clients are wearing the glucose monitor, so basically we test every time they eat to see how much it spikes, right? Yeah, so that basically regarding the nutrition, but you can also ask some questions later on if you need any more helps, basically to be more specific of how to lose fat. Okay, so do you guys play any sports or anything? No, all general population. Okay,
What
so
do you skiing?
skiing. Okay,
Yourself? Skiing?
same.
I run and weights.
Okay. Pickleball, okay.
Okay. Okay, so we want to just touch up a little bit about the mobility versus flexibility and why it's so important. Basically, from training athletes for the past maybe 10 plus years, so we've seen that a lot of people are lacking mobility because they're also lazy to do the job, right? Because it's not coming very naturally to sit down now and 5 minutes. Let's prepare the body for a workout, right? Everyone is in rush. They come to the gym, they train, they just want to go out as fast as possible, right? So what happens over time, basically the main difference is, um, mobility is the range of motion of the joints, flexibility is range of motion of the muscle. That's the main difference. But if you don't have a good flexibility to stretch the muscles, you cannot also achieve a good mobility for proper joint function and joint range of motion. So basically, what we figured out working out with athletes is that our body is very sophisticated, and then we have a joint by joint approach, which means some of our joints are made to be stable and other to be mobile. So for instance, I will start with the skiing. Um, One of the biggest challenging in skiing is the boots, because the ankle becomes so stiff, but that joint is made to be mobile. So that joint needs to move in all, yes, in all directions, yes. But for skiing, I mean, because of the sport, right, doesn't need to move in all directions. For team sports, it's a crucial. But then as we come up, right, so now we start from the ankle, we come up, then the knee needs to be stable. So what happened with people that are, having ACL injuries, meniscus, is if you don't have a flexibility, mobility in your ankle, it goes in your knee. Yeah, so knee, instead of being stable, will be more mobile. So basically, that's how the torque happens, and then you torn the ACL or you torn the meniscus and stuff like that, right? Then we move up. Then it's the hip. Hip also, it's a ball socket, right, joint, so needs to move in all directions. So needs to be mobile instead of stable. People who are having stiff hips, basically mostly from sitting in the office whole day long for many years, it goes to the lower back, right? So stiffness in the hip cause the mobility more in the lower back, which our body doesn't like that, right? So the lower back needs to be stable, and the hip needs to be mobile in order for us to function properly. That's why we are suggesting, even if you're on a desk whole day long, we are suggesting every hour to get up and do one mobile exercise. Simple stretch, just simple stretch, like just next to your desk, open up the hips like this. 5 times enough. Left, right. You can also stretch up if you want, just to keep the mobility functional, right? Because our hips doesn't like to be in this position. This is the most vulnerable position of the hip to get stiff. And then most of the injuries comes either from ankle or hips, ankle, knee, hips, mostly. Overhead athletes having shoulder injuries, of course. So thoracic spine needs to be mobile. Then cervical spine needs to be stable, and then also shoulder moves in all direction, needs to be mobile, stable, mobile.
Next one.
Yes, we can go. Okay, so basically, when it comes to sport, mobility can lead to a better performance, speed, and agility, because you can move in all range of motion and all planes of motion as well. It prevents from injury, and if you're playing a sport that it involves jumping or sprinting, it also allows you to take the full capacity of the body without straining or spraining any muscles. So basically, if you want to improve the mobility, what we are suggesting and what gives the best results is you do static stretching on a certain muscle. Let's say we stretch the hamstring for 20 seconds, and immediately after that you perform mobility exercises, basically like straight leg raises, to give you a new range of motion, and then to work for a new strength in that range of motion. So basically, let's say if the hip cannot move more than this, right? We stretch, static stretching first, 20 30 seconds, right? And then we perform exercises to open up the hips on the mobility, like a rotation, simple like this.
So I think once you do the stretch, you've now got increased range of motion
And blood flow.
And so your muscle is a bit looser. And then now you can go back to the mobility exercises, which go through a bigger range of motion, allowing you to then lift or get that last bit of range stronger, which in the long run will prevent injuries, because usually that last bit is your weak point, where your body gives up or compensates with another joint, as Demi was saying.
Yes. So the new mobile range of motion basically will give you the body more strength at that position, which down the road you will prevent the body from getting injured from overuse, for overuse. How to say?
Ligaments or tendons.
Yes, ligaments or tendons. Um, Another thing is the also what it helps with mobility is you build tendon stiffness. A lot of people, they don't play any sports, they go to the gym and then immediately somebody call them to for pickup game or something, and they torn either ACL or the Achilles, right? Because our body needs time to create those tendon stiffness. Basically, resistant training is one of the best method, like a lowering the weight down creates more tendon stiffness than other resistant trainings and resistant methods. um, another thing another thing this is again more sport specific. If you're planning to do any sports, we are always suggesting to have a full body assessment with a professional or a physio in order to determine your asymmetries, body asymmetries, in order for you to know what part of your body is lacking strength, what part of your body is lacking mobility, or flexibility, right? So because usually our body is um, very, how to say, superior in order to compensate things. So you might know, like if you have, let's say, left knee pain, our body immediately will compensate with the right side of the lower back. So always goes like this. Yeah, stiff ankle will be opposite knee will be the hip will be the opposite shoulder, and then the neck, right? Because our body wants to balance things, right? So your mind will immediately switch off the muscles in your left, will put all the pressure and the burden on your right, and over time, the compensation starts. That's how the injury happens, basically.
That's a question.
Yes.
So sometimes it's like I wear like a knee brace sometimes, but then they say don't wear it all the time, or
Yes.
should you wear it every time if you've got a dodgy knee, or should you sometimes?
Yes, I would take it off completely. Why you're wearing first? Like, what was the cause of you wearing the knee?
I played field hockey for years. My knees are bits.
Okay, but no meniscus,
Yeah,
no.
meniscus.
Okay, but are you doing exercise for your
Yeah.
knees to get stronger and or
No.
exactly,
My
yes.
wife makes quite a big point of the fact that
So
carry on playing.
Yes.
I would say, as Demi said, don't wear the brace at all.
At all.
At all. Unless you're doing, well, A, don't do the sport. If you're doing the sport, then you're wearing the brace during the sport to prevent an injury.
Yeah, I only wear it during the sport.
That's okay.
It's okay, but it's still more mental for you.
Probably.
Yes, it's not that it will, like it will prevent you for having a new injury. It's more like a mental relief for you to
Safety net.
avoid that something might happen.
So
But
I'll give you an example of mine. I have no ACL, no meniscus, no cartilage. The doc said I need a full knee replacement. And this was 4 years ago. When I first got the injury, I would wear the brace the entire time. My calf became half the size, and I was scared to do any squats. And it only exaggerated the situation because once my calf was weak, the mobility in my ankle was questionable, and my range of motion in the knee got lower, and then it was always swollen. So when I first went to the physio, I was like, oh, don't hyperextend my knee. That's how I tore my ACL. And he's like, what do you have left to tear in there? And I'm like, oh, that's a great point. And then he started releasing joint space. The fluids went away. I started working on things I've never worked on, like my calf, seated calves. So now I've modified my workout, worked a lot more on my glutes, and you can't tell that I've got a damaged knee. I've got a lump at the back of my knee as big as my patella, and that's just an osteophyte bone growth, but zero symptoms. I can't play sports for the only reason that I've got nothing cushioning the impact. But in terms of going to the gym, as long as I avoid certain stability movements, so I will do squats, but I'll do a box squat. So I'll limit the range of motion. I'll do a deadlift, but I'll do a dumbbell instead of a barbell. And because I'm not so worried about lifting the most I can, I'll hold on to a bench for stability, to take away the knee sliding, not to take away other elements. So there's workarounds, but my point is I was wearing a brace, a carbon fiber one, the ones you wear for skiing at times. You see people, took it off, and I'm better without it. When I was wearing it, if I would sleep, my foot would catch my bed sheet, and I wake up with acute pain. But that acute pain was the swelling was preventing the natural motion of the joint. And so it was the swelling catching other things causing the issue, because the brace was preventing my muscles from actually doing the job that they were meant to do. So I think even in athletes, correct me if I'm wrong, if you work the muscles around it, they're really good at compensating for the core damage in a good way this time. So don't rely on external braces.
Do you do any resistance training or no? Like gym or
Gym membership.
intention is there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because if you work the muscle around your knee, you will go without the bracelet for sure. For sure.
Timeline 3 to 6 months, and you'll see a material improvement. Do you want to do any assessments?
We can do, yeah. Do you wanna
Anyone want to volunteer for
for
assessment?
assessment to see the squat pattern or something? Yeah.
Okay.
I can't squat. My heels go up.
Okay.
I have
Okay.
ankle issues.
Okay. Yeah, but
Do we
it's
have an
good to see. Where's the Okay, you can just
So
approach
some of
like
this you can do it yourself too.
Okay. Show us just your natural first. Wow.
So the heels are coming off the ground, which also makes squatting very difficult when you're working out.
So see, like the whole pressure goes into the knees basically, right? So what it shows us, like, yeah, just try normal one. Try to keep the heels. Try.
But look, the back was compensating where he was bending forward as well.
No. I'm quite sure it's not the jeans. Because I mean, I'm trying to work on it as well. So like,
Yes,
yeah,
but
like,
do you work on your ankles or no?
very little?
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay. Yeah.
So solutions for this: elevated squat,
Yeah.
find a plank. That's one way to at least do a squat. So I think definitely if you're squatting, elevate the heel so you get those elevated.
It's a must for you.
100%.
It's a must to elevate the heels, to be on some ledge or something elevated, right? It's a must. Yeah.
It won't impact. So most weightlifting shoes you notice have EL elevated. When I say lifting, I mean like actual weightlifting shoes. They're hard surface. They're not shock absorbers. The heel will be a bit higher to help mobility of ankle. You don't need that specifically, but you want to put a pad at the back, or you'll have those diagonal steps that you.
the plates, just the
Yeah.
plates, the small.
Yeah, like those.
Yes.
weights, right?
Yes.
Or yeah,
yes.
put your heel on the weights as a makeshift. Or for mobility exercises,
For the knee.
For the ankle release.
Ankle release.
You need a band, right?
I need the bend. Yes. Okay, I will just demonstrate without like this. Okay, so those resistant bends. Yeah, you're gonna touch to something, the resistant bend,
Here,
but the
touch it here.
very. Okay. Okay. So you need some elevation as well, like this. You're gonna
Oh,
put
my
the
bad.
leg here on this one. The most important thing is the resistant bend to be below this bone. Yeah, because if you do it here, there is no difference. What are you doing, right? You're gonna put below the bone here, and then you're gonna drive as much as you can forward without elevating the heel. Yeah. So yes. So this is mobility exercise basically. Yeah. So you can do reps.
And does the surface have to be solid or can it be like because it's cushion, right?
Better solid.
Better solid.
If it's a box or something like a step, much better. Because here you compensate a lot, right? Because it's uneven. Yeah. So I would choose the like a solid surface, and then I would do 3 sets of 10 reps, like this. Yeah. But this one needs to pull you back. It's very important. That's why I'm saying the harder resistant bends, right? So you put and then you drive the knee as much as you can without compensating up like this. Yeah.
And does the back knee have sorry, does the back foot have to be as well?
Yes, yes, yes. Because a lot of people, what they're doing is they compensate with the lower back, especially our physio as well knows. Like, so basically they do like this. Yeah. So all the pressure comes here instead of going to the ankle, right? That's why we are elevating the leg on some stepper, right? Because they do on the floor and they go like this. So basically it's all here instead of here, right? But if you elevate here, it's very hard to compensate. Then you can just drive the knee forward and back. Yeah, simple exercise, but you'll see like crazy benefits in a couple of weeks.
I mean,
Just
that theory would in turn help your knees and everything else, right?
it. This is mostly for the ankle, but it helps to yes to lubricate the knee because you're going in full range of motion. Yeah, as much as you can, right? So basically when you're wearing that thing, you're preventing the range of motion. That's why you're wearing basically, so you're scared that if the knee goes too much, then it can cause some issue. But it's a more how to say, the avoidance of you not training the specific joints and muscles. Lazy. Yes. If anyone else also has some other issues with the shoulder, we can also
Any other tight shoulders, tight hips, or anyone have any questions on mobility assessment?
No.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on for now. You can come up later too.
yes.
I guess prone bottom.
This is the same with
Okay, so these are just, we already went over some of the drills, but they're just different body positions. I think one key thing is, even for hips, just put the band and it should pull you away from the direction that it, so for hips, it should pull you out, you move it in. For the ankle, it's, pulling and you push forward. So it should be the opposite direction.
opposite direction. Yes. And I can show them also for the hip. One good exercise is also with the resistant band. You put the resistant band on your hip, so basically it goes all the
IT
way.
band.
Yeah. Here, like this. So basically the resistant band is attached to something, and then you try to do the pigeon pose. So you can find something that is more elevated, so you don't need to go this low, and then you open like this. Yeah, and then the band pulls you in this direction. Yeah, so it helps you to open up the hip more, basically, because a lot of people, they have a lock hips, so they cannot stretch in a whole position. So with putting the resistant bands against, as Varun said, so we are kind of creating a space for the joint to move in a full range of motion.
So I think the other question is, how often should you do it?
Okay,
Ideally.
so ideally, it's basically every workout. But minimum we will say like a 2 to 3 times a week. Minimum. This can be, yes, it can be even less. Yes, you pick up, let's say, one workout, you pick 2 joints, knee and hip. The other workout, you pick shoulder and ankle. Done. Right? 5 minutes, 3 sets of 10 each side. Massive benefits, like massive benefits.
And notice, even for a warm-up, quote unquote, stretching, it's 3 sets of 10, which means it's not a static hold. You want to be dynamic, moving,
Yes.
and feel it through the joint. I think a big reason for that is it's mentally mind-body connection, and it's preparing you for whatever motion you're going to go into, so that the body doesn't get shocked when it does do that.
And increase the temperature. and when the temperature is up, then you're more ready to push, right? That's why we never suggest static stretching before workout, because static stretching is more parasympathetic nervous system, which is more relaxation, more digestion, more calm mind. When we are working out, basically we are shifting from parasympathetic to sympathetic, which is fight or flight. Then we need to prepare the body accordingly. That's why dynamic stretch is always superior comparing to static stretch. If you want to do static stretching, I would choose after the workout as a relaxation technique together along with the breathing technique. Then you have basically like a rapid switch from
Or
sympathetic to
what I call lay
parasympathetic.
in a heap until you can move after. Really. I think the last bit for today's session, so a couple of slides, is we wanted to emphasize, like I said, reframe what the holidays are like. If you can't get an exercise in, most people don't do stretching and mobility, so use it for stretching and mobility. These were some ideas on how to maybe get going, start enjoying it. And like anything, once you start seeing the benefits, and the benefits for mobility might just be you feel a bit more spring in your step, you'll start incorporating it day to day. On the other spectrum is if you're going to eat, what should you do? So myth versus facts, is cardio good for you? Cardio is great, but in terms of, I guess, just an overall workout plan, ideally, you should work out 5 times a week. But that doesn't mean 5 1-hour sessions, 1.5-hour sessions. The breakdown of 5 should be 2 resistance training weights. That can be 45 minutes to an hour. It can be as little as even 30 minutes, and you will see material impact. 2 anywhere between 20 to 35-minute zone 2 cardio sessions. So when we say zone 2, and this is probably the easiest one to do on your holidays, and you'll see a material benefit in your ability to lift weights when you come back. And the reason is you won't tire as easy. Zone 2 should be, you can have a conversation, you can think clearly, but you're still breaking a sweat. So this is usually easier with some Apple Watch or some tracker where you can monitor your heart rate. And it's basically 130 to 140 beats per minute, approximately. The fitter you are, you might have to push a little harder. The more you're beginning, the less you might have to push. When I first started zone 2, because I was doing a lot of weights and workouts, I actually realized that without tracking, I was pushing too hard and I found it too easy. So the first 5-10 minutes will feel like a breeze. At about the 20-minute mark, you'll start breaking a sweat. At 30 minutes, you're like, oh, okay, I'm almost there. I can get another 10 minutes in. But you get 2 20-minute sessions in, and you can pick what you want. You want you want to row, you want an uphill walk, you want to ride a bike, do a light jog outdoors. Pick your poison, essentially. It's all fine. Walking is not zone 2. Walking is zone 1. So yes, 10,000 steps are mobile, but they don't count as zone 2. The other hack I use is if I'm watching a show, a podcast, I tend to do that to relax after a day or when I'm really tired to take a break. I started taking my break on a bike because the zone 2 is not exhausting me, that I don't have to think about the workout. I can read a few emails and flag them to reply later, or I can watch something and I'm golden. That 5th workout is optional and it can be as little as 10 minutes. That 5th 10-minute workout is just to spike your heart rate. And there's different ways to do this. If you've got access, run up 2 floors as fast as you can, walk down slowly, and do that 5 times, and that's your 10 minutes. The idea is you want your heart rate to go above 150 so it knows what kind of exertion feels like. And so if you look at the hours that we're seeing across a 5 workouts, it's not 5 1-hour sessions. You can go as little as basically 2 hours across the 5 sessions. And even splitting it up will keep you mobile pretty much most of the week, which will help digestion and other stuff. The last thing you notice here is out of the 5, 3 involve some level of weights. The reason being, you might burn more calories running than you do in a heavy weight session. but you'll only burn for the hour that you're working out. The more you lift, the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolism. The higher your metabolism, the more you burn generally living. And so if you don't have enough time, get weights in over cardio, it'll be more beneficial. The other thing on the longevity spectrum is, I believe you lose 0.5% or 1% of muscle mass after the age of 45 every year. If you did nothing. Well, if you did nothing, you'd probably lose it a bit quicker. But generally,
With
you start,
cardio especially.
especially with cardio, because your cardio will go to insulin first, then fat reserves, then muscle reserves. So in general, your body is made to lose its muscle over time, which has other kind of severe knock-on effects. After the age of 60, if you have a hip fracture, something like 40% of people don't make it past 1 year. The reason is not the fracture, it's the sedentary lifestyle, which then causes all of the other knock-on effects and or other blood clots. Part of this is the more muscle you have, the more stable you are. The more stable you are, the less likely to fall. If you do fall, the more muscle you have, you can brace yourself so that that bracing doesn't impact your bones. Last but not least, good lifting weights is not just good for muscles. It's actually really good for bone density and bone mass.
Hormones.
And hormones. On the bone mass element, the whole mechanism of building muscle is you're breaking your body and causing kind of micro tears. In the same way, lifting weights will cause micro fractures or micro stress fractures. The healing of that is how muscle grows. The healing of that is how bone hardens. And all of that means you won't have, or less likely to have knock-on effects later in life. Linking this back to holiday hacks, if you're eating, you have this untapped wealth of energy, try and lift heavier. This is when you set your PBs. This is when you go a kg or two heavier in what you lift. And that helps you put on some of that muscle mass. The last thing around this is, if you don't have time because you want to go catch that extra drink with friends or eat the extra meal, don't do 4 sets of 12. Do 5 sets of 5. But go heavier. So in each of these, one thing that people miss is, oh, I did 5 sets of 5, I'm great. Yes, but if you did 5 sets of 5 at the same weight that you do normally 4 sets of 12, nothing is achieved. In whatever rep range you're doing, you should feel a bit more exhausted. And the second thing is try and superset it. So if you're doing a leg workout, or let's say do squats and a bench press and go 5 by 5, you won't have to rest between the legs because your chest workout is the rest for your legs. You could probably get 2 supersets in within 25 minutes and be out of the gym. If you have 40 minutes, do the stretches, do the mobility. Otherwise, lift heavy, get in, get out. So the point is, if you have limited time and holidays, pick weights over cardio. And because you're eating more, try and push on the weights that you're lifting, obviously safely. So if you're lifting 10, don't aim for a 20. Go for like a 12 or a 13. Go up a little bit, and 10, 15%, you could probably come back and keep that strength even as you lose your weight. So put those calories to good use.
If the another thing with the cardio comparing to resistance is that if you're doing the cardio only, your basal metabolic rate will never go up, right? So if your basal metabolic rate at this point is 1,500 calories, because you don't have enough muscle mass, our body doesn't need extra space, right? So it will keep the basal metabolic rate at 1,005. So basically you burn 1,000 calories from the workout running like 2 hours, but then your basal metabolic rate doesn't go up when you're doing resistant training, because you're doing muscle hypertrophy. Then the basal metabolic rate goes up. So after 3 months of doing resistant training, you'll be able to eat more, because yes, because from 1,005 will go to 2,000. So you have a more gap to eat a little bit more, to feel more happy, to help you with longevity.
Yep. I mean, look, most athletes have what, 3 to 5,000 calories a day,
Yes.
and they're lean, under 10% body fat.
Yes.
So at some point, when you get lean enough, you need the food and the fuel to build, which then you need more food to continue building, and it's a virtuous cycle instead of a downward cycle at some point. So I think the last bit is, how do you, without having a trainer on hand, how do you build your own workout? So Demi will give a tip and then show 2 examples.
Okay.
You just want the examples?
One sec. Yes. So basically, you need to remember the easiest way to teach you is to remember 5 steps of how you can create workout plan by yourself anywhere in the world. If you have resistance bands or dumbbells, whatever equipment you have, you need to remember 5 steps. So our body function in I would say, like, not in 5 directions, but basically it's has 5 main movements. One is vertical, then all the, like lat pull downs, overhead
press.
shoulder press. Another is horizontal. Third one is squat pattern. Any squat pattern can be single leg lunges, can be barbell squat, can be step up, and then it's a hip hinge movement. Basically, hip hinge is all the RDLs. Good mornings, right? Every movement that force you to push the hips far behind, that's the hinge movement. And then I'm always putting the 5th one is one core exercise. So basically you need 5 exercises, one vertical, choose, let's say, I don't know, overhead shoulder press. One horizontal, I would choose dumbbell rows for back. One squat, I would choose goblet squat, holding dumbbell in front of you, squatting, and then maybe dumbbell RDLs. And I would choose one core exercise, either plank, any sit-ups, Superman, a lot of variations for the core. You can do as a circuit. So you don't need to rest in between, right? So 5 exercise, hip hinge,
Defending my workout plan, it only has 4, but
what are you missing? The core.
The core.
Exactly.
But most of these, the goblet squat, you have to keep a tight core. Renegade rows or bent over rows, you have to keep a tight core. So if you're able to engage your core, technically the core should be a workout in every movement that you do. So back to you.
Yes, but from my point of view, I think the core is one of the most important segments in our body, because it connects the upper and lower. And basically every athlete in my life that came with weak core got injured 1-2 months later on in the season, off season, doesn't matter. Weak core cannot handle the pressure of the knees or the shoulders, right? So everything comes from the center in order for you to produce force, either it's a vertically or horizontal. That's why I'm always living by that. You need to incorporate one core exercise. Doesn't matter. Pull-off press, plank, one sit-up. You can choose a lot of varieties, but I love the core section. I know most of the people are avoiding it, but I think that it's a crucial. And then the other one?
So the other one is, if you don't have access to any weights, keeping the same mindset of your body moves in 5 ways or 5 movements.
Yes. So same thing to remember: one vertical, one horizontal, one squat, one hip hinge, and one ab workout or core exercise. You can do it in a circuit of 3 to 4 rounds, one after each other, with minimal rest in between. You don't need more than 10 to 20 seconds rest in between the exercises. But once the round is over, then you rest a little bit longer. So you rest 3-4 minutes, then you start the second round. Then you go 5 exercises, you rest 3 minutes, you start the third round, 3 or 4 rounds, you're done for the day. 25 minutes to 30 minutes, done.
I guess, we've gone through a few, so we won't recap all the points. The last thing we'll say that we didn't touch upon, a drinking hack. So we're
Wow.
all going to drink. But how do you portion control drinking? Because we all have friends that will keep pouring. Actually, I'm the friend that keeps pouring for others. So one is vodka cranberry, switch it to vodka soda. So pick your mix where possible. The second is we usually make the poor decisions not just on the drinks, but more often the binging on the fast food post the drink. So how do you limit the alcohol intake for preventing the binging after and filling yourself up so you don't need to binge as much? If you have a vodka soda or whatever your mix may be, even if it's vodka cranberry, you're half a glass down, top it back up with the mix. And so you've now had double the amount of, or 1.5 times the amount of mix, the same amount of one shot of alcohol, but 1.5 of the mix. You've got more liquid in you. The more hydrated, the more water or the more juice you have in you, you'll tend to eat less. But also by topping up your glass halfway through with the mix, peers will tend not to top it up with alcohol again. And so you're delaying the second drink
Sugar
for a
as well.
bit further down. And obviously try and avoid juice because of the sugar insulin spike. Or stick to wine. For some reason, you don't binge on food as much after you have wine. And you're okay without social pressure to down wine versus downing mixes. And so pick your alcohol or pick your mix and then top up your glass with the mix more often than you do with the alcohol, and it will spread that out. So
And avoid beers.
Avoid beer.
That's the worst for the body, yeah?
Yeah.
Our body naturally cannot digest yeast. So every time you drink a beer, the yeast stay and creates inflammation. That's how the beer belly happens. That's inflammation and water retention around, right? Because our body struggles digesting the yeast from the beer especially, right? A lot of people cutting just the beer, switching up to to wine, they lose weight. The tummy gets more flat. Yeah, because the inflammation clears up, the yeast is no longer in the body, so it can our body can function much more properly.
I think similar. Switch out champagne for white wine, less bubbly, less bloating.
Yes.
But all of this is though it's relative, and so enjoy, be mindful. I think is the main takeaway, and pace yourselves. We all have to live a little, otherwise, where's the fun? But you can live a little and still keep your health in check. So I think on that note, just the last thing, circling back to what we said, the best holiday hack: sign up for PT before you go for holiday. Then you're coming back knowing you're getting in shape. And so we have 2 locations in Raffles and Harbourfront. Raffles is CIMB building. Harbourfront is right next to Gilman Barracks. 9,000 square foot, 40 trainers, 5 physios, and some Pilates. Also, a great thing is meal prep when you come back, just to kind of understand calorie intakes. And so there's T Squared Eats as well. So enough of the plug. Yeah, live longer, enjoy your holidays. And if there's any questions, come up to Dimi, myself. We also have Michelle here, our physio. So feel free to just, walk around. I guess before we go, any questions that anyone might have?
Specific things, food-wise.
Only because it said it in the thing. There's any exercise you recommend for elbows, for paddle or golf or anything?
Elbows. You're specialized in elbows exercises.
Just because in the blurb for
Oh,
this
paddle.
it said it talks about paddle. Like, I'll talk about the paddle episode.
I think he's thinking about stretching your.
Stretching or strengthening?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Like, do you feel like just soreness?
Either one. I'm happy with either one.
Yeah, both.
Yes. Where's the ball? Okay. For releasing, you need one tennis ball. It's enough, right? You put on the table, you place the arm like this, then you slightly, like basically slowly scrolling up and down until you find the knot. So most of the time there is a restriction in blood flow, right? There is a trigger points that hurts a lot, right? So I would press on that trigger point until like 10 to 15 seconds, and then it releases. Then you scroll a little bit, then you find another knot if it's along the way, then you press again. Yep. So basically that's the stretching part. The strengthening part,
Yeah, strengthening part. I mean, that you can actually do it on the gym floor, on the bench as well. That's what people do. On strengthening, you
like
can
this.
also put it on the table and then do your wrist extensors, your wrist flexors as well. Using
But you need a little bit weight.
So a dumbbell would be good. Do you want to stabilize the shoulders? Keep it down and not elevated. 90 degrees. Go up.
So see, as you can see, like basically you need just to isolate those exercises without compensating with the other ones, right?
And then try to like lower down and focus on the eccentric bit. So when the muscles are lengthening, yeah, and then go up again, contracting. So a lot of people do a lot focusing on more of the contraction rather than the lengthening of
On
the
the
eccentric control. You need both to work because the muscle fibers work both ways.
And the last thing for paddle is grab a, if you have access to the gym, grab a weight plate, go on one knee, and twist the weight from right hip down to left side
It's also
overhead.
core.
And
so you have the core, right?
you have
Immediately.
because essentially your entire transfer, but also you'll learn to move through the motion, which will prevent your knee getting caught and you moving from the hip or the knee. You'll actually also you won't overdo your shoulder because now you're putting the weight through your whole body as opposed to one joint. So performance-wise, if you were looking for tips today on what to do for a specific sport, all core, 100% core. Yeah, enjoy. Okay.
Any other questions? Anything food related? Something? Maybe the loneliness part. What's the loneliness part? Yeah.
Joking.
Just joking. Not really lonely or.
But I do have a question though. Like, I heard a lot of things. I'm not sure if it's a myth or not, but like people tell me that if you're not sweating, you're not working.
No,
Fine.
not
It's a
true.
myth, right?
Myth,
Yeah.
100% myth. If you work out outdoors or stand outdoors and you're sweating, work out in top air conditioning and lift weights, you won't sweat a bit. So it's a myth. As you should monitor progress with reps or weight in the gym. So if you're lifting more or doing more reps, you're progressing. If you're progressing, you're effectively doing more work. Work is weight moved, work done, essentially. And that you can work done is also an equation of energy usage. And if you're using energy, you are burning calories. So the sweat is, yes, it's an indication of your heart rate and body temperature, which can be a byproduct, but that can be regulated by being in an air-conditioned environment. Regulating your body temperature could also allow you to have a bit more energy, but that's more mental exhaustion. And that's why sometimes you can do more reps and more weight indoors than outdoors, but that's not necessarily linked to strength. It's just linked to other environmental factors. So you don't have to sweat.
And each of us sweats differently. That's also genetic related, right? How you're also the kidneys function and the sweat leaving the body. So each of us can sweat completely different.
It is a good thing to sweat though. So it's good for detoxing, clearing other elements. But that's where you've got saunas or walking out in the sun or other elements to get that as part of your routine.
I have a couple questions. The first is on stretching. Like, how should I incorporate stretching given that just now what you mentioned about two strength resistant exercise and two cardio
If you have to go, it's okay.
Like, so
I
should
guess
think
we're
of
just
stretching as
Q&A.
one day of stretching, or should I be
Okay.
stretching like
Feel free. As
one
in,
time?
So
but thank
what
you for coming.
what I'm doing personally, one day I stretch, one day I do foam rolling. Yeah. So you can play around, right? So let's say Monday I stretch, Tuesday foam rolling, Wednesday I'm doing stretching, Thursday foam rolling, every day. I dedicate 15 minutes every day
Yeah.
to stretching and mobility or foam rolling. So, but if you're doing static stretching, better to do after the workout. Or after the workout, or to be separately, like 6 hours later or before sleep, let's say. Because static stretching relaxes the body, right? So when you're doing the workout, you don't want your body to be kind of relaxed, right? You want to own it, the workout, right? When you're in a parasympathetic nervous system, it's more like a relaxation. That's the benefit of static stretching, basically, to calm you down. You That's not a very beneficial prior workout.
The the other thing was, so I used to do hour-long workouts. Now I do 45 minutes or 30 minutes. But what I've done is I'm like, look, I've got the hour in the day. I've started incorporating mobility work as part of my workout. I had to for my injury. But the other thing I noticed is when I did my assessment, I was squatting, and as I lowered, my hip would shift a little. It wasn't showing up in power plates. So we have power plates that measure force per weight distribution. So I was driving weight equally through both feet, but my body was shifting a little. And it was primarily because one of my glutes was not as active, and the rest of my body was really good at compensating. Whereas after doing some banded walks, walking backward on a treadmill for my knees, knee specific, my glutes were a lot more active, and then I didn't have a shift in my squat. So I've gone, okay, if I can lift heavier, if I can reduce the rest between workouts, that's another way of progression. So instead of doing more reps or more weight, I reduce the rest between sets. I'm now reducing the amount of time I work out, even though my total workout plan is the same exercise. I'm able to build in my mobility without needing more time in the day for it.